Hello. Today I want to talk about 11 great choices for a book club. These aren't necessarily my favorite books, although some of them have become top recent reads, but more, I've found these titles have elicited a wide range of reactions in my book club, where some readers have loved them, some have hated them, others have felt much more mixed, and this has created a lot of juicy discussion because every reader brings their own opinions, their own interpretation, their own experience, their own feelings about the book to the chat. And this makes for a much more rewarding reading experience than if I'd just been reading these books all on my lonesome. And it's why I love being a part of a book club and running a book club myself. So I'm going to talk about why I think these titles in particular make such great fodder for book club discussion. And I'd love to hear if you have read any of these books and what you think about them, or if you think you might use some of these books in future book club choices, or if you have had excellent book club experiences with certain titles. Let me know what those books are in the comments below. Now, I've been running an online book club for 2 years now, and we have such great members who are so intelligent and insightful. We read a lot of contemporary literary fiction, a lot of books that have been nominated for book prizes, and it's really exciting being amongst some of the first readers of these books, knowing that some of these titles might go on to become future classics, and figuring out what we think about them and how we feel about them and getting into it. And so every month I present a number of titles to choose from, and then we read one book together and have a really in-depth discussion about them. And we have monthly Zoom chats where we discuss these books in real time. And there's also a private Discord because a lot of us read a lot more than just these titles. So we're always talking about books and have weekly check-ins about what we're reading. It's really fun and wonderful, and it's really revived and enlivened my enthusiasm for reading. So do check out the book club using the link below if you're not a member already, and you might want to consider joining us. First, there is Playground by Richard Powers. This is a very ambitious novel which includes a number of different characters spread all over the world who have this connection to each other through an island in the South Pacific, and a large corporation has designs on using this island as a base where they want to set up an autonomous state which won't be subject to the laws of any nation, where they can run things how they like them. And this tiny island, which has a tiny population and which is experiencing the effects of climate change, they have a participatory democracy where all of the members get together to vote on whether they want to allow this corporation to use their island as a base, and hence enhance the islands and everyone on that island's wealth considerably, or to refuse it and let this corporation try to set up their dodgy autonomous state somewhere else. And this novel deals with big contemporary themes from global capitalism to the use of AI to the destruction of the environment. But how it handles all of these themes and these many different characters is open to a lot of interpretation. And for some readers, certain characters and storylines worked better than others, but also this novel's ending is it's the kind of ending that you just want to talk about with someone, because it is very tricksy in how he handles how it concludes. I personally had to read the end of this book 3 times to figure out or get a sense of, I think I understand what is going on here. And so those are all the reasons why I think this makes a really excellent book club choice. And also reading one of the sections about one of the characters that spends a lot of time underwater exploring beneath the surface of our oceans inspired me to go to the aquarium in London and to see and immerse myself in underwater life. Our Evenings by Alan Hollinghurst, surely one of Britain's greatest contemporary writers as a prose stylist, and the beauty of the language that he employs. It is so wonderful to read his books, but his books tend to be quite long, and so it's great reading his books as part of book club discussion, because that gives real encouragement, to get to and through this book sooner rather than later. And this story spans multiple decades from the late 20th century or into the 21st century, following a young man who is mixed race and who is raised in a single-parent household, and who, when he is an adolescent, attends a prestigious boarding school, even though he comes from very humble circumstances, and he has aspirations to become an actor, and he is gay, and we follow him throughout his life and the many different challenges he experiences, the changes in the nation, how he feels like both an insider and an outsider, which is kind of quintessential Hollinghurst. And the way this novel explores the past and memory as we become kind of ghosts to our own lives and drift through places which were once very familiar to us and which have now changed and moved on without us. It is so incredible how he captures that experience, and this was just wonderful to read together, especially during the autumn. It feels like a very autumnal book. We've also been reading some recent winners of the Nobel Prize for Literature, including Han Kan's Human Acts, which is translated by Deborah Smith, and this has really difficult subject matter. It includes a student uprising and a massacre which occurs at the hand of the government, and it deals with the aftermath of this in a lot of detail, where it considers those who are left behind as well as those who have died. And so reading it together as a group, it's great encouragement to really concentrate and try to understand the history behind this, what has informed this story, and the meaning and larger consequences of it together. I found that such a valuable experience. And actually, I reread this as part of my book club before reading Han Kan's most recent novel, which is also absolutely stunning. And because the language, she uses is so precise, and she really encapsulates the feeling of an experience and these different individuals who are struggling within this larger oppressive system and trying to seek justice. Another recent Nobel Prize winner, Olga Tokarczuk, her most recent novel, or recently translated novel, The Empusium, translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones, and this takes place high up in a small town in a mountain range in the early to mid 20th century. And this is partly inspired by Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain. And so it was really interesting as part of our group, those who have read Thomas Mann and those who haven't. Now, I, being very studious, went and read The Magic Mountain before getting to this new novel, because it takes the same basic concept of a young man who is struck by an illness to stay at this health resort for an extended period of time, and she takes some of the larger ideas that Thomas Mann was working on, considering a lot of different philosophies and how that plays into the politics and the war. But Tokarczuk brings a lot more into it about the inherent misogyny to some of these larger ideas and ideologies, and how that plays into the real lived experience of these different characters. And there's a mystery at the center of this concerning this central character, and it kind of works as like a folk horror story, but is also this incredible examination and re-examination of some of the greatest thinkers of the past century. And so reading it together as a group, we were really able to hone into the meaning of some of these larger ideas and concepts while also appreciating the immediate story and the creepiness and eeriness of the atmosphere that Tokarczuk creates. Then there is the Japanese novel Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami and translated by Asa Yoneda. And this story, I so appreciated having members to discuss this as I was reading along with it, because this is another very tricksy tale where through so much of it, I was trying to figure out, like, what am I reading? What is going on here? But there are little connections between these different islands of experience which move between different periods of the future and the very distant future to show the outcome of the human race and where human civilization goes. And it alights upon the experiences of different individuals caught in these different periods of time. And sometimes there seem to be connections between them, and other times they just seem to be experience that is standing on their own. But by the end of the book, it forms together into this larger whole where I don't think it gives any definite answers, but you get a certain sense of, oh, I think I understand what's going on here. And this novel is contemplating a lot to do with the progression of human civilization and the possible ending of the human race, but also about artificial intelligence and where that is going and how that might or might not be incorporated into our actual lives, the substance and of our lives and how our minds work. It is so fascinating, so interesting to discuss, and it is one that, yes, readers had a lot of different opinions about. So yes, we read a lot of translated and world literature, and I love that we have members from all over the world, so we really get the experiences and understanding that members from all around the world can give. And another translated book that we read together was the Book of Disappearance by Ibtisam, Azem, translated by Sinan and Antoon. And this novel begins in part with a kind of simple concept of what if all of the Palestinian Arabs suddenly vanished from the state of Israel? What would that look like? And it looks at some of the practical consequences of this in day-to-day experience, but specifically looking through the friendship between two neighbors, one who is Palestinian and one who is an Israeli journalist. And so it follows the drama of this situation as this man is wondering what happened to his friend and in trying to investigate what is going on in the country and the various conspiracy theories that grow up around this, and then the physical, tangible consequences of it. And so obviously this is dealing with a large-scale, ongoing political situation and crisis. This obviously there are a lot of touchy feelings regarding this, and something else that I so appreciate about our particular group is that everyone really respects each other's opinions and is really careful to look out for that while still really discussing the themes and subject matter of the books that we read in depth. So I think this book really hit home in a way for a lot of our readers as a way of looking at and considering this larger issue and crisis rather than just reading about it in the news. On the Calculation of Volume, Book 1 by Solvej Balle, translated from the Danish by Barbara J. Haveland. And this is another very tricksy novel with a strong concept, which is one that is so wonderful to discuss in real time as you are reading it and as revelations are made, because it has this very strong concept where a woman wakes up on a particular day and she has already lived through this day. So it's a kind of Groundhog Day concept, but rather than her waking up exactly the same as she was yesterday, she is still aging and changing, and certain effects to her body and certain effects to objects around her continue to have changed going on from day to day. But for everyone else in the world, it's as if the day before had never happened, and so they are just living it as they would normally. And so she tries to navigate this strange situation over the course of a year, reliving the same day over and over again. So it's looking at these big issues to do with aging and mortality and our relationships to each other, how strong our relationships to each other, and what happens when those relationships are tested by circumstances that can't be foreseen in a way. Even though this wasn't written during lockdown in the recent pandemic, it does, I think, function as a kind of commentary on that. And I kept thinking about that while the experiences of that time period while reading through this novel. And so, yeah, and it was so interesting. It's the kind of book that I think readers bring their own experience to a lot, and that really impacts how a reader will think and feel about this novel. So fascinating to discuss this book in a lot of detail, especially it is the first part in a planned long series of books, and I'm so looking forward to getting to the other books in this series. The Adversary, or The Adversary by Michael Crummey. And this novel was so exciting to read together because we read it because it was shortlisted for the Dublin Literary Award, and I was lucky enough to go along to that ceremony, and Michael Crummey won that award. And so I was able to interview him immediately after he won the award. And then I shared that interview with the members of my book club. So it was very exciting. And this is a historical novel that is so masterfully written. It's such immersive storytelling. It takes place in the early 1800s in Newfoundland on a small coastal town. The inhabitants of this town have to contend with a lot of different things, to the changing cold weather, to variations in their fishing industry and pirates that come ashore, but also how the two owners of the main local businesses, they are rival siblings, and they have an all-out war with each other that all of the residents of this town get sucked into. And so following these different characters through these periods of adversary, through different seasons and through different interpersonal conflicts between them, and relationships that grow up, and characters that frequently die off, because this was the early 1800s and in very difficult circumstances. So people frequently died because of disease and many other factors that I've already discussed. And so, yeah, it was such an interesting one to read together. It also has very violent content to it. And so I know some of the members really struggled with some of that violent content, but it also has a lot of humor and warmth and love in the story as well. And so it was a great one to read together, and really encourage each other to keep reading this book, because the story is so worth it. The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong, which is a book that has been chosen for a lot of book clubs, including Oprah's book club. So there have been a lot of interviews with the author, and that's really been great, because we've been able to listen to these interviews and read a lot of the discussion outside our own particular group before going into our own chat about it, and discussing our own reaction to this very heartfelt story about ordinary individuals living out their daily lives, who don't have much opportunity to move beyond their own present circumstances, but dealing with their own relationships to each other in this workplace, and how they contend with that, and all the personal issues that they are going through, and a very tender connection and friendship between a young man and a much older woman who is going through Alzheimer's, and I love stories about intergenerational friendships. I think they can be so beautiful and rewarding, and such a great exchange. And so, yeah, it was really great how this wasn't a book for everyone. I mean, some readers found it a bit of a slog, especially because there's not a strong plot line other than the dailiness of everyday experience. But there's also so much richness and symbolism as a kind of statement about contemporary America in this novel. And lots of different opinions about this book. But personally, for me, as someone that used to work in a fast food restaurant, and it's the daily life of a fast food restaurant is portrayed in this story, it really chimed with me. Audition by Katie Kitamura, a novel that's currently on the Booker Prize long list, and is a novel which will inevitably create so much discussion because it's a story that was self-consciously created to generate lots of different interpretations to it. It could be read in so many different ways, as it primarily follows an actress in contemporary New York City and her marriage and her shifting connection with a young man, and the meaning and that actual connection can be interpreted in so many different ways, and the story and the way that it's told really prompts you to consider that. And this novel also considers a lot to do about being a woman in the world, how a woman is perceived and how she perceives herself, how she interprets the way that others react to and interact with her, and also looks at the family unit and a marriage, the relative strength of a marriage, and about the state of being a parent and the connection or disconnection we have with our children, whether we should have children or not, due to our particular circumstances. And it considers all of these things in a very inventive way that could feel just like an intellectual exercise, but also has a lot of emotional resonance to it. And again, that will just depend upon the reader and what they bring to the book themselves. And so hearing so many different readers' reactions to this, it was fascinating to discuss. And finally, there is the novel that we read most recently, and which is also currently on the Booker Prize long list, Endling by Maria Reva, a novel that deals with an ongoing contemporary political situation of war, as well of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, because the story begins in Ukraine with a woman who's a idiosyncratic scientist who is on a mission to save rare snails, but she also funds her research and work of saving these snails by getting involved in the romance and bridal tourist industry in Ukraine, where foreign men and bachelors come to the country to meet women that they expect and hope will just be sort of compliant, of women that aren't tainted by feminism. But she uses this and working in this industry to fund her own research. And there's a kind of comical situation that men from around the world, when they arrive here, they meet a woman who just wants to talk about snails with them. But she also forms the connection with two other women that work for this industry, a woman who dates some of these men and her interpreter, who is also her sister, and who has a plan to stage a kidnapping of a number of these bachelors to raise awareness of this cause, of this misogynistic industry which is occurring in the country, but also to try to reconnect with her radical mother, who she has lost touch with and who she desperately wants to find. But then the full-scale invasion occurs, and so the author intrudes upon this story to insert her own experience and the process of writing this book amidst this larger conflict that is going on. And so it feels like a story that is being written in real time, and it's really extraordinary in that way. And again, it's generated so many different opinions, where some readers appreciated certain aspects of the book more than others. Some appreciate it more as like an intellectual exercise rather than as a story that they felt like they could get really invested in and enjoyed, but as a really unique tale, and one that was so fascinating to discuss. So those are some of the titles that we have read in the past year. And again, I would love to know if you have read these books, what you think about them, or if you are interested in using these titles in your book club now, or if you want to let me know about any other great book club reading reads that you have had made so much great chat between you and the members of your group. I would love to hear about that in the comments below. But yes, if you're looking for a book club to join, please consider joining mine and following the link below to find out more about our club. And I hope to see you there. And I hope you're doing well and reading good things. And I will chat to you again soon. Bye-bye.